Hey, how's everybody doing today? This is Mark Brody back here with the next episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And today I'm very honored and humbled to have Denese Waiters with me on this episode. And we're going to talk a little bit about customer service, customer experience, and some work that Denese has done at JD Power. And so, with that, Denese, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm happy to be here today.
Excellent, thank you. So Denese, before we get started, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and some of the work that you do these days?
Sure. Well, my name is Denese Waiters, and I am a senior director in the Customer Experience Intelligence Group at JD Power. I serve as a subject matter expert for some of our benchmarking and best practices in customer service and customer experience arena. So I started in customer service and customer experience quite by chance. So after graduate school, I went to the University of Virginia, Darden School to get my MBA. And after that, I started working at Arthur Andersen. So I know I'm dating myself right now, but I started working in the consulting industry with Arthur Andersen. So I worked in that arena for about 5 years. And then after that, I took like an internal consulting role with American Express. And this was in the early 2000s. And I had this large enterprise-wide project working in their contact center. So I didn't know anything about contact centers. I was just a project manager. But the project went so well. It was such a successful project that I was hired into the contact center as a director in their contact center. That was so long ago. And then I led the customer service, sales, and disputes teams there. And so that's kind of how I got started in customer service. And since then, and there's a lot of roles I'm skipping in between, but I've also led two other contact centers for two other large organizations. And so that's where I started, and that's where my passion lies today.
That's awesome. It's amazing how many of us didn't actually go to school to work in a contact center. You know,
Yeah, I say that all the time. I don't know anyone that said that I want to work in a contact center. I just don't know. I think in my opinion, it's like a default role for so many. I mean, people get into the role, sometimes because they want to work for a certain organization, and that's the
yeah,
easiest way to get in. And then sometimes it's like a transition role. I'm in school, I have 6 months left, or I need a flexible job or something like that. And sometimes people get into the industry and they just love it and it sticks and they stay there for a lifetime. But I don't know anyone who plans to be in the contact center.
not on purpose, that's for sure. But like you said, we start working in the industry, and all of a sudden, it's like, all right, we can't leave. We can't find something else to. We don't want to find something else to do because this is so it becomes a passion of ours
That's right.
to be able to help and serve. So.
That's right. That's right.
So, in your role, Denese, with JD Power, you noted that you recently published a cross-industry study.
Right.
And I know that this study was massive. What were some of the drivers or hypotheses for conducting the study? Why did you embark on that journey?
Well, we embarked on the journey because, so one of our hypotheses is that, or the main hypothesis for the practice is that a good experience anywhere influences expectations everywhere. So what that means is no matter whether a customer is, paying a bill or they are, changing their address or they're changing a plan or something like that, we believe that customers expect a certain level of service, no matter the industry. JD Power has all of these studies, and in all of our studies, we ask customer service questions. And so we have all of this data. So we decided, why don't we use the cross industry data? Why don't we put together a study with all of this data so that, so because we have it and we can share it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we started. So we ended up with this new benchmark. We have this new industry benchmark, cross industry. We have close to 100 brands in this study. And the name of the study is the JD Power Cross Industry Customer Service Experience Study. And there are 11 industries, and some of them are segments. But we looked at them, and we also looked at several channels because people now are interacting with brands via lots of channels. And so
Yeah.
we evaluated the phone channel, the in-person experience, the mobile app, the website. We also looked at chat and email and mail. We kind of grouped that in one category, and that's the category where people correspond with the brand. They actually send correspondence to the brand. And then we looked at social media. So the study includes all of this. And so we set out to determine, what do customers expect today from customer service brands, and who is leading in the customer service arena, because so many industries are now blended. I mean, at one
Yeah.
point there was a distinct industry, and today the line has just been crossed. And so we're just trying to understand what people want today, or what they're expecting today, and who's kind of leading the innovation as it relates to delivering quality service. And so that's what the study's about.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in share a few of the findings that you had from the study, and maybe anything that was like a surprise
Yeah,
that you weren't expecting?
I can. So one thing I want to say is that this study involves customer service interactions from initial contact through problem resolution. So it's from the
Okay.
start to the finish of the study. So the biggest thing that we found in the study is that customer satisfaction is highly impacted by the level of effort that a customer has to exert. And so the more effort, the lower the customer satisfaction scores. That came out just loud and clear in the study.
Yeah.
And we've known that for quite some time. This is not new revelation, but it's clear that that's what
Mhm.
people are expecting today. So now we evaluated the channels also, because with COVID, brands are now having to deliver service in new ways, or ways that they never had to before. And so, customers are expecting, now that we've gone through the COVID years and, past that,
Yep.
to a degree. Now brands know how to deliver, and customers have developed new channels. Like, there was a point when my mom would never go on an app and pay her bill. She just wouldn't do that. But because we have to now, she does that. And so now customers are expecting a different level of service because they know that they can. So that's the main finding we found, that customer service, I mean, that customer effort is extremely important. The second thing we found out, and one of the things that I had several podcasts leading up to the study. The second thing we were setting out to determine which industry kind of leads the path as it relates to customer service. And customers told us that the investment segment, which is under the financial services industry, leads the path, and overwhelmingly so. So, I was guessing before. I was like, who do you think who's going to come up at the top? So we didn't rank the brands for this inaugural study. We will probably rank them next year. We just wanted to make sure that we got the study right this year. But the investment segment is, heads and tails above many others. And in terms of the channel, again, we evaluated 6 channels, and the channel that had the highest customer service ratings overall across all industries is the in-person channel. There's just something about
Really?
person to person. Yeah, I was surprised about that. I was really
Yeah.
surprised. There's just something about dealing with people, and they told us that. We're like, wow, who would have expected that today? And they say they prefer to talk to people. And so the in-person
Man,
channel.
it's kind of like a byproduct of you know what occurred during the pandemic. People are like, okay, I really like people now.
Yeah.
I'd like to interact with them a little bit more, either face to face or in other ways, and that's kind of an interesting finding because um, you know I guess um, a lot of the contact center world would say, yeah, people don't want to interact with a person like live. They want to do self-service or things like that. So great outcome from the study is
Yeah.
in person is back.
Yeah, in person is, you know what I think it is too, since many brands have gone or trying, or going for the digital transformation, they're trying to make sure, well, first of all, it's cost effective to have digital solutions, right? So
Yes.
customer can go online and pay their bill. Why should they call into the contact center? Because contact centers are generally the most expensive forms of servicing. So, of course, they want to reduce their expenses, but also it's a way to deliver on what customers want. Like for
Mhm.
customers, like me, I really don't want to call into a contact center. Like I never want to. And whenever I call into a contact center, it's for a purpose. It's because I have to pay a bill. It's
Yeah.
because there's an issue. And so it's just an administrative task. It's something on a list of things to do. I really don't want to call. And I think there are lots of people like me and so, it's I think brands are they are trying their best to deliver on that, but it's not an easy balance because some people just want to call into a contact center because when there's a real issue, they want to speak to a person. So I can
Yep.
pay my bill, I can do this or that, but when there's a problem and I think I'm going to have to explain it to more, and I don't think that the chatbot is going to understand it, or
Mhm.
there is a time is of the essence, I don't want to have to pay an interest rate or something is happening, I have to call into a contact center because I want to make sure that you understand what I need or whatever. And I think there are many like that.
Yeah. How would you define, and we've kind of talked about this. How would you define the how customer effort relates to customer service, customer experience based on some of the findings? I know we've kind of talked about this, um, but is it related to like resolution, or is it knowledge that they feel that the customer feels like they have to, potentially hop channels in order to get to a resolution? I know I've walked into some places and they said, yeah, you're going to get a better deal if you call the contact center, you
Well,
know?
and that's unfortunate because one of the things that what brands need to do is they should make sure that all their channels deliver the same service. And I
Yes.
know I've I've been a practitioner, I've been on the strategic side and the operational side. And I know that there was a point at one of the brands where if you went on the website, you got one response, and then when you called in, you got another.
Yep.
That is not the way to do business, and customers know that. And so it's like if you want the better deal, do this, and that shouldn't be. So I think brands need to do a better job of making sure that all of their channels deliver a seamless experience, right? And so
Yes.
people need seamless, frictionless experiences, and they want to solve their problems quickly. And so they've told us that time and time again. So those are some of the opportunities and challenges that brands face today.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way you put that. Create it seamlessly and frictionlessly
Mhm.
across all the channels, and so it's a consistent experience regardless of where. Obviously, we can't go into a lot of the details. We don't want to go into a lot of the details of the study here, but it's a huge impact when consumers feel that there's a disconnect between channels.
Right, right,
So,
right, right.
yeah.
No, I can share some additional findings too, because there were a couple of we talk about surprises. So one finding that I want to say it didn't surprise me, it actually astounded me, is the
Mhm.
fact that when customers call into a brand, it's like 40% of the customers in this study said that they have to repeat themselves more than once. And that's a real issue. Part of that is because of, IVR handoffs and authentication and, just the whole transfer process. But that needs to be addressed because that's one of the worst things. It's like brands put all this money into authenticating customers, and then they're
Yep.
supposed to screen pop for the agents to say, you should be able to come on and say, "Hello, Denise. I see that you've authenticated yourself. I know who you are." And you should just go right into that conversation, and it doesn't happen. So not
Yes.
only are these brands paying for this technology that's not necessarily working, but it's frustrating to customers. And 40% of the customers in our study said they had to do that. So that is a major, major issue.
Yeah.
Another finding that we found is that a good experience is not good enough. And what we found is that if brands are not providing a great experience, it impacts their NPS and their brand loyalty numbers. And so that was interesting. you
Yeah.
know, customer says good, it's got to be great.
It that's and when we had talked previously, That was something that just stood out. Good is not good enough.
Yes.
And when I talk to folks today, it's like, look, your customer experience, your NPS isn't being judged upon you and your industry peers. It's being, compared to, the best experiences that your consumers are having. So if they're not able to get it with you, they're going to keep on searching and find it somewhere else.
That's right.
Is that something you were seeing?
No, no. One thing I think that, brands should not confuse um, loyalty and advocacy because, for example, if I go to the local stores right here because they're close in proximity to me, doesn't mean they're the best quality. It just means that I don't want to drive, so 5 miles to do this or to do that. But it doesn't mean that I'm an advocate. It just means that I'm loyal to them because they're down the street. But if something better comes in, I'm going to do better and go better. And so I think brands need to really understand their customers and listen to their feedback. So that's one of the recommendations that I would make um, to brands, that one of the things they need to focus on is listening to their customers. And I know that we always hear that, and it sounds elementary and intuitive, but I think a lot of brands just check the box for getting this feedback, but they don't do anything with it. I can tell you
Yes.
from my experience, we used to collect feedback all the time and we would act on those things that, you know, needed to be acted upon. But it but we didn't pay attention to some of the more common reasons. We didn't have the technology that helped us see patterns and
Mhm.
customer sentiment, and so now there are all these tools out there that can help brands focus in that area. And I think they need to take advantage of it because that is how you move to the next level of innovation. And
Yes.
so technology has really changed the game for many brands.
When you were talking about the omni-channel experience, the first thing that popped into my head was technology and how it plays a role into creating those great experiences, creating those personalized experiences, more so than anything else. And when you have brands that are collecting data, they're doing analytics, they're surveying the heck out of their customers. They're surveying their internal folks, and so there's so much data that's available to them. And then where's it going?
Right,
It's sitting in that L 13 or something like that.
right. It's too
Data
much.
myself now.
Right, right. How do you synthesize it? And so brands have to
Yeah.
find synthesize this data and do something with it. And I don't know, I'm not sure that all of them are doing that.
Mhm. I mean, and there's an expense to it, obviously. But what's the expense of not doing it? Where do you think organizations or brands should be focusing when it comes to improving customer effort? Is it simply doing something with the data, and
Yeah.
prioritizing the data that they have, or is there something else?
Yeah, I think, for one, I think they need to listen to their listen to
Mhm,
their customers and actually do stuff with the data. I also think there's a huge opportunity with listening to your agents, your representatives,
mhm.
because I tell everyone that the employees are the voice of the brand. So a company can have a great strategy, they can have a wonderful marketing plan, it could be a beautiful program, it could all work well, but the rubber hits the road when there's an issue and the customer has to call in and they speak to an agent. And that agent needs to be able to deliver that same experience. And if they don't, there is a disconnect. And so just listening to your customers and listening to your phone representatives who are on the ground. I mean, they hear everything firsthand. And so I think many brands have the opportunity to use their contact centers strategically instead of tactically.
Yeah, I talk to folks, in some of the consulting that I do, and I say, picture your contact center as the hub, provides the spoke to every other piece of your organization.
Right.
And if you're not partnered with your contact center and your contact center isn't owning those interactions, you're missing the game because, as I'm sure you've seen, a lot of organizations will have marketing own the social channels, as an example,
Right,
and their focus is on marketing and creating buzz. But
right.
one of the things that resonates with me is, some people are using that social channel. Some consumers are using that social channel as a way to vent or provide feedback, and if it's not being collected by somebody and actioned, I think they're missing the boat.
Yeah, and brands need to also watch their social media brands, their social media channels, in part because customers are beginning to use that channel as a way to complain. And
Mhm.
you have to be careful about what's out there, and you need to manage that. And so you need to have a social media team today,
Yeah.
to make that full circle and to deliver on that experience.
And regardless of the size of the organization, I mean, if you're going to have, a social media experience for your customers, you have to have that integrated in some way, shape, or form to an operational actions, or in some cases actions.
That's right.
So it's another entry point. um let's pivot a little bit to CSAT, related to knowledge of the representative. And this is one that I find that I have a lot more conversations about, these days. Is people are looking, organizations are looking at their uh, knowledge management process, not just as knowledge articles, but integrated into everything else that's being done with the customer. Do you see knowledge as potentially being a negative experiential driver for customer effort?
I think rep knowledge is incredibly important. I can tell you
Mhm.
that personally, when I call into a contact center and I know I'm speaking to a rep who is not knowledgeable, I much rather
Mhm.
have, if I'm on
Yeah.
a chat and I'm speaking to a chat agent and I know they don't understand, I know that it's going to be it's a long, drawn out experience that's simply going to frustrate me. So I rather in that chat and start a new one. If I'm in a location, a kiosk, a store, I have an in-person experience, I'd rather go to the other side of the store into another department to find someone knowledgeable. So I can tell you that rep knowledge is always going to be important. It's going to be critical. Training is very important. And honestly, that project that I talked about when I first started in the industry was all about rep knowledge and increasing CSAT one agent at a time. It was a fantastic project. But what I also want to say for this project is what we found is something our customers told us that rep knowledge was not number one this year. Let me just read some of our stats to you. Um, so what we found in this year's study is that customers want to be called by their name. That's the first. That's extremely important to them, which that surprised me, but it's true, and I guess that's a part of being a customer and feeling valued. And the second
Mhm.
us is they want agents to have all information available. And I presume that's because now that there are so many channels, if I interact with you on your app and then I have to call you a few weeks later for some other reason, I need you to know that this is my third time calling. Or I need
Yeah.
you to know that I have purchased this product or this service twice and it didn't work or it did work. And so I need you to know who I am. So a good CRM system will do that, but
Mhm.
agents have told us that's extremely important. Let me read some stats to you also. So for the in-person channel, although 76% of the brands in the study are meeting that KPI, the agent addresses the customer by name, so that's good. There is a 258 index score gap for brands that are not calling their agents by name. And we're talking about
Wow.
1,000 points. The study is only 1,000 points, 258 index score gap. And for the having all information available, although 85% of the brands in the study do that and they are meeting that goal, there's a 348 index score gap for those that don't have all the information available. So I present that to you because sometimes, we're overwhelmed with new initiatives, but one
Uh-huh.
initiative that you should not ever stop is personalizing the experience for your customers. that's what they overwhelmingly told us that they want and need, and brands
Yes.
need to keep that up. And for those that are not, just implementing, call this person by name. And there's some industries that do a good job of that. When you walk up to them, they call you by your name, and then there are others that aren't. And
Yes.
easy fix.
It's one of the most basic foundational pieces
Yeah,
of working in an and I hate to use the word contact center, more of an interaction center.
right,
Um, it's one of the most basic functions is create that personal relationship with your customer as soon as they get on the phone. And it's not a matter of making sure you say thank you 4 times
right.
during the conversation, because that's ridiculousness. Uh,
Yes, it is.
you know,
And it feels scripted
it's
when you do that too often. You really need to be authentic
yes.
speaking with your customers, and customers know when you're being authentic and when you're not.
Correct. And I think that plays into the whole personalization piece. Call me by my name. If I say, don't call me Mark, call me Mr. Brody, that you hear what I'm saying. You're not just like listening and going through the motions. We want to make sure that we're having a conversation that's going to get to a resolution. And I'm not calling you up just because I have nothing else to do today.
Right, right. And,
So,
and the goal of every conversation should be to reduce effort. It really should be.
yes.
I'm calling you because I have a need, I'm on my lunch break, or I'm not. Maybe it's just it's a lazy Saturday afternoon, but I'd much rather be doing what I like to be doing rather than speaking to a contact center agent talking about my new address, or paying my bill.
Yes.
And so it's
Yes.
all
Make
about
it easy.
make it easy, and really the way that we define customer effort is the degree to which a customer needs to exert themselves. You
Yeah.
want to minimize that and make it a low effort experience so that they're willing to call back.
Yes.
Willing to call back, they're really willing to go on your app. And I will give up quality sometimes for ease. And our
Mhm.
customers told us that they agree with that, and
That
they, they have a similar philosophy.
That's awesome. And I think it's going to force organizations to look at how they get to proficiency quicker with new hire agents, and how do they retain agents a lot more effectively. What are you doing with your agents that's having an impact on your CSAT? Are you having to go ahead and start from ground zero every 15 to 20 days?
Right.
With new agents, and why is that? And see what the impact is, with studies like what you've just finished up, Denise. This is the root cause, or this is the result of lower cultural values, or lower retention, or higher attrition. It results in reduced knowledge of your agent, lack of personalization, because people are just not comfortable and proficient in the information that they're sharing. They're so focused on getting things right that they forget about the foundational pieces, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what, I'm glad you touched on that, because what I think is happening with in many industries is that they are not hiring for the right qualities in their agents. So in the old days, when contact centers first started, came on the scene, it was important that you were empathetic and sympathetic to the customer's needs, and you apologized, and customers had to call you because there was no way that they could solve the problem on their own.
Yep.
Hey, customers can solve many of their own issues. And
Mhm.
so I think brands need to begin to look for agents that take actions into their own hands, who are, they need to be empathetic with the customer, but they also need to know that when a customer calls in, they've already tried on their own to fix things, or they've already read up on what the solution is, or they already know what's available to them, because they know that you did it for John Doe and it's all over the internet, so you can do it for me. So
Yeah.
when customers call in, they want an agent that takes control of the situation and gets right to the solution. Thank you for
Mhm.
understand what you're concerned, and they act like it's their own business. Like, I'm controlling the situation. I'm gonna take it from beginning to end. And so these agents now need to be a lot more empowered. I hate to use that word because that was a word from we just overdid that word in the past, but they really need to be comfortable enough to take risks on behalf of the customer. I think that's
I
important.
love it. I'll tell a quick story, Denise, if you're okay with it. I once had I worked in the student loan industry for a number of years, and one of my representatives was talking to a school representative and trying to get her to transfer the customer conference call, the customer over to our contact center. And person's like, I don't know how to use my phone. So what did this representative do? She Googled and then emailed over the instructions on how to conference and walked her through the conference. And it was all done, real time. And I'm like, that's is it in our process? No. Guess what? You empowered and fixed the situation. And that client of ours was going to become even more of an advocate of us because of that situation.
It went off script on behalf of the customer.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's what every agent should have feel like they're empowered to do, and nothing punitive is going to happen to them,
Right.
as a
But
result.
they also have to have the desire to support a customer. I remember
Yes.
when I led the contact center, one of the executive members sent me a book, sent a book to me, and the book was titled, what was the name of the book? The book was like, "Would you want this done to your mother?" And so I
Oh, yes.
about that. It's something like that. And I think about that when I want you to treat the customer like you would want your mom or your sister or your child treated when they call in. So if you begin to
Yes.
think about it, you take it personally, like, how would I want to be treated? Or when my
Hmm.
mother calls in, how are you going to treat her? That's how you need to treat the customer.
I saw the author of that book speak at a conference a few years back,
Mhm.
and she was absolutely amazing. The stories that she would tell about, how her mother felt about interacting with, as a consumer, it
Uh-huh.
was awesome.
You get it right when you think about it from a personal perspective. And I think
Yes.
as leaders, our role is to help agents understand. It's just like voting. A lot of people say, I didn't vote this year because it didn't make a difference. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? Every vote counts. And it's like that with agents. It's like they don't necessarily understand that one conversation matters. And I think as
Yes.
leaders, it's our responsibility to close the gaps and help them understand that one conversation is one of many, and it tells the whole story about the brand. And so we have to constantly keep our agents motivated. As leaders, we need to be motivated. We need to be concerned about the customers. When we act like we're concerned, when we act with compassion, with passion, with a sense of urgency, and we lead by example, it changes the dynamic in your environment. And I think you have better agents to serve. So, your employees matters as well.
I love it. I love it. Denise, you and I could go down a purple squirrel hole
Yeah.
on this particular topic for hours. I know we could.
Yes, I'm
Um,
sure you could.
Denise, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to chat with us today. If someone wants to learn more about the JD Power cross industry study, maybe wants to get a copy of it or participate in a future study, or just generally just wants to chat with you to pick your brain on things, how should they go ahead and contact you?
Yeah, so for one, if you're interested in the study, I can tell you that JD Power has, over 50 studies. Certainly hope you're interested in the cross industry customer service experience study, but you can go on jdpower.com/business to learn all about this study that we talked about today and some of the other studies. There's lots of, you'll hear about our capabilities and our solutions and lots of insight on there. Just want to know about our products and services. But if you want to reach out to me, the best way to do that is at insights at discover.jdpower.com.
Excellent. Well, we will definitely share that out with everybody as well. And Denise, I just want to once again thank you very much for being an awesome, awesome guest on this episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And I look forward to having you back at a future on a future episode. Maybe we can go down one of those purple squirrel holes.
Yeah,
Um, employee experience, employee engagement. Oh my gosh,
I'm
we could
sure we
talk
could
for
share
hours on
many
that.
examples. I'm sure we could share many examples. A lot
Yes,
of fun doing.
definitely.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mark. I enjoyed being here today, talking to you and talking about our study.